Sometimes you make
Can you
easy
repeat that
decisions.
for the people?
Yeah, he said the reason he didn't hire Thunder Dan was not because he couldn't do the job, but because it was the easy decision.
You what?
I think, guys, to truly appreciate Monty and everything he did, and I think, probably safe to say, Brandon, after we go through this, we'll move on probably to some other topics here because there's a lot to unpack with the Suns right now.
Oh yeah.
But to appreciate his greatness, what he did for the Suns, you do have to look to the past, and not everyone knows our past. Obviously, I'm Arizona native. I talk Suns all the time, always in Suns gear. So people will approach me, we talk, and there's a lot of fans out there that haven't been a fan as long, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? But it's important to kind of know the history to truly appreciate what happened with Monty.
Exactly.
And I kind of get a little rundown here of the highlight. And I'm talking about the last 20 years here. So we're in 2023 now. Back in 2003, we brought in Coach Mike D'Antoni. I think we all unanimously, I think, really enjoyed Mike as a person.
Yeah.
I loved his press conferences. I was funny. He was candid, kept it real.
He was cool, man.
Very cool.
Yep.
Obviously, he played ball too.
Yep. Over in Italy.
Damn good. Damn good. I think he's got some championships, some MVPs over there. So Mike could hoop. He knows the game. He loves it. And obviously, he brought us a 65% winning percentage,
which is incredible,
in his time, which is insane.
I mean, I read you Monty Williams' record, 194 to 115. And then look at Mike D'Antoni's record, 253 to 136. 65%.
Insane. And you look at those playoff games, just the amount we played right there.
Yeah.
It was at 77 playoff games, 51%. Obviously, coach of the year. And this is when a lot of the pain started to happen.
Yeah.
2006, right? Lost in the West Finals to the Spurs.
Yeah.
We had home court advantage, almost got swept.
Yep.
2007. Lost to the Spurs again. Mari Boris suspended for game 5. We lost by 3 points in game 5. You guys know if we would have had Amari and Boris, we would have won that game. And then, of course, referee Tim Donaghy came out, said in his book that they preferred the Suns to lose.
Yep.
And he said in his Netflix documentary. And back in 2007, I said that to everyone. They said, you're crazy. That's a crazy conspiracy. You're just saying that because you're a Suns fan.
Back then, I'm not saying it didn't happen prior. I mean, heck, who knows what would have happened during the 60s, 70s and all that, but this wasn't really like a common thing, It's not like you could hop on social media and be like, oh, Tim Donahue's refereeing the game tonight. We're going to lose. You know what I mean? Like they do with Scott Foster now.
Like Scotty Foster,
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry, but go on.
You're good. 2008, Steve Kerr trades the Matrix for Shaq at the trade deadline.
The infamous pointing to his finger, Shaq up in the suites.
And it was exciting, right? But
it was exciting. I will say that.
We fell from number 1 seed to a number 6 seed from that time of the trade. What happened? Lose to the Spurs again, 4-1 in the first round.
Wasn't Shaq kind of injured a lot too, from my terrible memory?
Yeah,
had some injuries.
He had some injuries for sure. He's getting up there in age. Obviously this was after his tenure in Miami.
It was a little too late with Shaq,
A little too late. And, I think obviously the first game of that series, that was when Tim Duncan hit the 3-pointer to, if I recall, force overtime, went into double OT. We lost game 1. And that was pretty much the template for the rest of the series, losing it 4-1. Mike D'Antoni era was exciting because we got to go to the playoffs all the time. We always had a chance to win. Yeah. Obviously, we had Steve. We had Amari. Amari had some bad injuries. He had, the orbital fracture.
Yeah.
With his eye. He had the knee surgery. We just went through a lot during that time. But
we had
Mike's
a new
time was great.
cast too. Like, we had Raja Bell, Quentin Richardson, you name it. Like Kurt
Raja
Thomas.
Clothesline.
Yeah, exactly.
Joe Johnson, Jim Jackson.
Yep.
Don't forget Pat Burke.
I love Pat Burke, man.
Pat Burke was great entertainment, man.
Yeah, man.
Great. But then, after Mike, this is when you really got to start to understand and appreciate.
Real quick, Steve, if you are a younger Suns fan, this is where you really want to start paying attention.
That's right. So we brought in Terry Porter. If you guys know, former NBA player, played on the Portland Trailblazers alongside Clyde Drexler.
Yes, sir.
He had a short stint. He was friends with Robert Sarver.
Don't let that percentage fool you right there.
Don't.
Yeah.
He got the job because he was friends with Sarver. He completely changed our offense. He wanted the Suns to become a defensive team that focused on hard-nosed defense, even though Terry Porter as a player had a horrible defensive rating. I looked back on this back in the day. I looked again today just to double check. He was fired during NBA All-Star Weekend in 2009 when we actually hosted here All-Star Weekend.
Yep.
I saw you there, Brandon.
Yep. Good times.
Yeah. And we both talked about this back in 2009. Just like felt like there's a dark cloud hanging above the arena.
And again, that coaches getting fired during All-Star Weekend back then probably rarely happened. And even now rarely happens.
Especially when you're hosting the event.
That's insane. That must have been
poor timing.
I wish I was a fly on the wall during that meeting when he got fired.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is this was Sarver's friend too. It was just very odd. But of course, we failed to make the playoffs. Alvin Gentry takes over as the interim head coach. We had a 46-36 record, 10 games above 500. Barely missed the playoffs. Of course, the story that it always is, Brandon, the West was loaded. If we were in the East, we would have been a 5 seed.
Right. Yeah.
So, classic story.
Yep.
Then we enter the Alvin Gentry era.
Yes, sir.
And of course, Alvin Gentry was an assistant coach for Mike D'Antoni. So he knew that offense inside and out. He brought it back.
Yep.
What happened? We went to the playoffs.
Success. Yep.
Yep. We returned to the 7 seconds or less offense. We ended up losing the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals, 4-2. Yep. I do remember the ESPN preseason predictions predicted us to not even make the playoffs.
Jeez.
So we overachieved as always.
Yep.
But here it is, guys, 2010-11.
Yep. This is where, as you mentioned, this is where the pain begins.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
We missed the playoffs, 40-42 record. Again, went from barely losing in the West Finals to not making the playoffs.
Yep.
Following year, 33-33, shortened NBA season due to the lockout. We did not qualify for playoffs. Following year, 2012-13, Alvin leads the Suns to a 13-28 record, guys. 13-28. Let that sink in.
Yep.
Fired and replaced by, once again, one of Robert Sarver's friends, real estate investment partner, if you did not know, and former Detroit Piston Lindsey Hunter instead of Thunder Dan.
The biggest slap in the face, one of the biggest slaps in the face in Suns history.
Horrible.
Yep.
And of course, Robert Sarver, if you guys remember, said the reason he didn't hire Dan was not because he couldn't do the job, but because it was the easy decision. Let that sink in too. Sometimes
repeat that. Can you repeat that for the people?
Yeah, he said the reason he didn't hire Thunder Dan was not because he couldn't do the job, but because it was the easy decision.
That's Could you imagine if Robert Sarver was still our owner now and did something like that and said that? The Suns fan, all of us would explode. Seriously.
I think so. I wouldn't be surprised if Sarver had a little bit of jealousy there of Thunder Dan and how much love the community has for him. But so, he wanted to make his own hire and put his stamp on it.
Oh boy.
Probably, get under the shadow of Jerry Colangelo because of course, we all love Jerry here. So then we hire Hunter. He brings us to a 12-29 record, guys. Okay. 12-29. So he takes over for Alvin, finishes off the season 12-29. Then he gets canned.
Yep.
So Sarver gives both of his boys, Lindsey Hunter and Terry Porter, basically like a half a season, and then fires them.
Yep.
Weird. Then he makes a good move, right, Brandon?
Yes, sir. Jeff Hornacek.
Jeff Hornacek. You know, Jeff, guys, played for the Jazz, obviously the Suns.
Yep.
The Philadelphia 76ers.
A great
Jeff was part of the trade.
in his day.
Great shooter. Mm-hmm. And we never wanted to say goodbye to Jeff.
Yeah.
But Jeff had to go in order for us to get Barkley.
Exactly.
So we all understood, but he was the hard one to say goodbye to. Mm-hmm. Jeff
did a great
job.
He was the big name sort of in that Barkley trade too.
He was, because it was Hornacek, Tim Perry,
and somebody else.
Yeah. But he was the big name for sure. Mm-hmm. He was the headliner of that trade. But Jeff led us to a 48-34 record, guys. 14 games above 500.
Yep.
And again, we failed to miss the playoffs because the West is super loaded.
And Suns fans, let me tell you, that was an incredible season. And just so you know, if you guys are new to this channel, maybe you've been watching me for a little bit now, that's when I actually started doing this YouTube stuff. Obviously, the videos and the shows and the quality were a lot different back then, but that was an incredible season. Gerald Green should have probably won Most Improved Player that year. Goran Dragic was incredible. Miles Plumlee, I could go on and on. Yeah. The vibes were different. And the Suns fans seemed excited. And 48 games, Steve. 48. Nowadays, you're at least, what, a 6 seed maybe in today's NBA if you get 48 wins? Like,
at least.
That was an incredible. And even though you're going to go over it in a minute, the 2014-15 Suns had a little bit of that vibe. A little bit. Obviously, it wasn't as good, but still, they won a few games.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, you know, if we were in the East again, I looked this up today, guys, double check. We would have been the number 4 seed in the East. Okay. So Suns actually made NBA history, oddly, funny enough, sadly enough, that season by becoming the new title holder of the team with best record to not make the playoffs. So we actually hold that record, if you guys didn't know. Best record in the NBA to not make the playoffs. Very sad. So we claimed the number 9 seed, and of course, Dallas. Dallas was the team that we were trying to get ahead, and they finished 1 game ahead of us. Okay, so that was Jeff's first year. It was pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Next year, that was good. He leads the Suns to 39-43 record. We're the number 10 seed. This is where the Warriors' reign begins.
Yep.
They had 67 wins that
year. I remember there was some stuff with Gerald Green too, and Jeff Hornacek bumping heads, and I'm sure one of the Morris twins and all
Markeith.
that. Yeah.
Yes.
That was
absolutely.
That was pretty bad.
Then we had Jeff for a little bit. He led the Suns to 14-35 record to start this season.
You start like that, you're already talking about being in the lottery.
Oh yeah. He's replaced by Earl Watson.
Oh boy.
Again, dark cloud starts to appear over the Suns, just with how Jeff Hornacek was disrespected. The team disrespected him in huddles. You could see it on TV, guys, if you were watching the games. It was not a good feeling, not a good look for Phoenix. And, you know, it's important to have a good look because it's very, very few times back in the day, maybe once or twice, that we would be on national TV.
Yeah.
And then to display that on national TV, who wants to come here?
Exactly.
Right? So it was just a bad look.
And if you're one of the worst teams in the league, you want to at least sort of have a good rep, you know, like, oh, they got some kids over there and they're looking good. They got a bright future and they got a decent head coach, you know, but you don't want to look the way we did, man.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And so we enter the Earl Watson, the short Earl Watson era.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He took over for Hornacek, led the Suns to a pitiful 9-24 record to close out the season. He got another chance the next year. We go 24-58. And guys, this is the highlight right here.
My boy Dragon Bender.
Era begins.
I should have put his jersey up somewhere back here. It's my boy right there, man.
Yeah, we draft Bender. We get the number 4 pick. We trade the rights of Bogdan Bogdanovic for Marquise Chris.
Sort of a lose-lose in our situation.
And then look, guys, look. Then we had Jay Triano. Then we had Igor Kokoskov.
Yep.
He tried to bring in his own offense.
Yep.
He told Sarver to draft Luka.
Yep.
He told him why he didn't. Sarver drafted DA. Sarver went to U of A. Obviously, DA, we got him from U of A. And this is how bad it was, guys. Our big free agent signing was Trevor Ariza. Trevor freaking Ariza, guys.
Yeah.
And we go 19-63. Igor's fired. Enter Monty Williams, guys. So
yep, and the rest is
that's
pretty
what
much
Monty
history.
did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a great
hellish.
Yeah. That's what, 15 years ish, close to that, of Suns history in terms of coaching. And Steve, you did an excellent job there. I'm going to let you take a breath for a minute because that was some great research, great history right there. And you worded, I'm paraphrasing what you said here, but you worded something. You're like, to really understand this Monty Williams situation, to where the Suns are now, you have to kind of go back to the past. And I'm not saying Suns fans need to be like you and I and know who Dick Van Arsdale is and know who this player is and this coach and all that, but at least pay attention to maybe the 2008 year all the way up to now. You know, that's kind of when it all began, and especially at least the last 10 years. At least go back to 2010 and do some homework, Suns fans.
What's up, Suns Geek?